All right, we'll go ahead and call the city council meeting for Monday, October 19th. Roll call, please.
Eversol.
Here.
Agni.
Present.
Nemitz. Here. Rustler.
Here.
Hook.
Here.
Holcamp. Martins.
Here.
Riddle.
Steve, you still on?
Here, yes, here.
Okay. Everybody, please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. All right, do we have any proclamations, recognitions, presentations?
Nothing.
Any other shuns? Anybody have anything for public input?
As far as Alderman, too?
Well, aldermen have comments and announcements under aldermen, unless you want to announce under
I
public.
thought you were grouping it all together.
No.
No.
I think we,
Yes, I
Get
do
your
have
book
it.
out.
It's gonna be on video gaming, sir, and you want me to just wait till later on the agenda to speak about it, so you can wait for the rest of the meeting, sir?
Well, we can do both. If you want to make a brief statement first, or if you just have a couple questions now, I'm not going to let you get into the conversation with the council. So if you have any statements or anything you want to make ahead of time, now would be the time to do it. But while we're discussing it, if you just have a couple questions or clarifications, you'll be allowed to speak.
I guess I have to speak now. My name is CJ Schlemmer, sir. and I'm here looking for some clarity on the opening of an establishment located down at 915 Columbia Center. Now, I know there was a liquor license already issued or renewed to the owners of this business. I feel it was granted to a business whom you older persons passed an ordinance stating that this type of business was to be restricted. The issuance of liquor licenses in the public's best interest. You as a council passed and the mayor approved ordinance 3366 on January 16, 2018. The whole council who was present voted yay. Now, this ordinance amends section 502030 of the municipal code, application for licenses, in subtitle J, which I sent the alderpersons a copy of. And, it states in there that whether an establishment derives from more than 50% of its gross monthly revenue from video gaming revenue. If the application for the initial license of the liquor license and not a renewal, the applicant shall state whether the establishment anticipates that more than 50% of its gross monthly revenues will be derived from video gaming. At the time of the application, if the applicant operates any video gaming terminals or will apply for the operation of any video gaming terminal within 12 months from the date of liquor license application, the applicant shall provide the city clerk with a verified report or reports for the required periods, showing its gross revenue from all sources, including food, beverage, and alcoholic liquor and video gaming. If the applicant has not been in operation prior to the date of application, the applicant shall provide verified reports of his projected gross revenues from all sources for the 12-month period commencing from the date of that application. Now, in section 502070, subtitle O, in the same amendment, it states in the same thing, it's stating any person, the mayor is not supposed to, let me see how I'd say it. No retail license shall be issued by the local liquor commissioner to any person, association, or corporation operating or seeking to operate an establishment that derives from more than 50% of its gross monthly revenues from video gaming. At any time during a liquor license period or prior to the renewal of a liquor license, the mayor may order the licensee to produce their accounting records to determine if the licensee remains eligible for a liquor license under this section. And eligibility under this section or the failure of the license to produce such records to the mayor upon request shall result in the automatic revocation of the license. So then later on that year, when you guys did this on January 16th, you had another amendment ordinance passed, which 3402 on April 16th. This ordinance was passed so that the city liquor code would comply with the state's liquor code. And in the state's liquor code, section 502 and the prohibited licenses 070 reads the same as I just read to you as in 3366. Now the business I'm asking about here is named B&D Slots of Fun. And the new business license application states it will be a wine bar with 6 video gaming machines. It's no longer going to be Bully's Steakhouse Restaurant. Now, the layout of the building is compatible to any other video gaming parlors in our area. And the business license was received by the city on July 8th, and the liquor license was issued on July 23rd of this year. Now, I should say issued or renewed, okay? Now, what I'm questioning is if the mayor requested to see the accounting records to determine if they would remain eligible for a liquor license under this section, 50% gaming. In other words, I'm asking you people as a council, would you like to know also if they were eligible also to meet the criteria of your past municipal code and ordinance? Now, I was told 2 times there would be no more gaming parlors allowed in Columbia. I feel this establishment will fall under that same category of gaming parlor. This is the same business as you as a council did not want to proliferate in the city of Columbia. So if the mayor did not request the records before, do you as a council and in the public's best interest feel the mayor could do so in the future, and at which time, if found ineligible, their liquor license shall result in automatic revocation? I thank you for your time, and I will wait to hear your responses.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other public input? All right, comments, announcements. I have none at this time. Any aldermen? Alderman Nemeth?
I do have one this evening, and I know City Engineer Chris Smith sent the announcement around with regard to Monroe County's Bluff Road Bike Lane Grant application. They had an open house today, and I was there at the very end. Was anyone else able to stop by or attend to see the alignment or layout of that at the open house? If not, they have another one on Wednesday, October 21st from 4 to 6 at Fountain Inn, and it will be held outdoors if anyone has reservations about being indoors. But the reason I'm bringing it up, Mayor, they're going to put shoulders on both sides of Bluff Road. As you know, it's 5+ miles for this phase they're applying for. And my question is to you and the council, would we be willing to submit a letter of support for this application?
I would say absolutely, unless anybody is opposed to it. I love riding down there, and I don't ride on Bluff Road because it's dangerous. So I think it would be a wonderful thing for the community as a whole.
Is there?
So unless anybody has an opposition, I will definitely write a letter in support.
That would be great, Mayor. I appreciate it. And again, the open house is being repeated on this Wednesday, the 21st, from 4 to 6. It will be outdoors in Fountain at the Fountain Inn. So if you have any interest and want to see the paperwork, the layout for it, the engineers will be there too. So thank you very much.
Thank
Mayor.
you. All right, any other aldermen? All right, department directors, any announcements, comments? All righty, consent agenda, Mr. Hefkin.
We have 5 items on the consent agenda. First one is the motion to approve the minutes of the October 5th, 2020 regular city council meeting. Item number 2 is the motion to approve minutes of the October 5th, 2020 closed session meeting. Item number 3 is motion to approve the payment of vouchers for the period of October 1, 2020 through October 14, 2020 for the total amount of $396,197.60. Motion to approve statement of funds for September 30th, 2020 And the fifth and final is a motion to approve the release of infrastructure maintenance guarantee irrevocable letter of credit.
It's tough. It's tough.
Can't be
And I don't
taken
wear
away.
dentures. Item number 18-02 for the Brillinger Fourth Edition subdivision.
Anybody have any questions or want anything removed from the consent agenda? If none, entertain a motion to approve by Alderman Martin, second by Alderman Eversol. Roll call, please.
Eversol.
Yes.
Agni.
Yes.
Nemitz.
Yes.
Rustler.
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Ocamp.
Yes.
Martins.
Yes.
And Riddle.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next under unfinished business, ordinance 3538, authorizing execution of an annexation agreement between the city of Columbia, Illinois and Timber Rock LLC for the annexation and zoning of a tract of real estate comprising the former Fairfield Country Club located at 1800 and 1900 Columbia Quarry Road. If somebody be so inclined to make that motion by Alderman Agni, second by Alderman Eversaw. Any questions, comments? Roll call.
Eversol.
Yes.
Agni.
Yes.
Nemitz.
Yes.
Rustler.
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Ocamp.
Yes.
Martins.
Yes.
And Riddle.
Yes.
All right, next we have ordinance number 3537, approving an amendment to the official zoning map of the city of Columbia, Illinois to rezone 12 parcels comprising of Meadow Park Block and the former Upchurch Oil and Ready Mix Concrete property from I-1 Industrial District and R6 One Family Dwelling District to C2 General Business District, if somebody would be so inclined to make that motion.
Also move your.
By Alderman Nemitz, second by Alderman Riddle. Any questions, comments? Roll call.
Eversol.
Yes.
Agni.
Yes.
Nemitz.
Yes.
Rustler.
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Ocamp.
Yes.
Martins.
Yes.
And Riddle. Thank you.
All right, next we have a motion to award the bid for the 2020 concrete replacement program. Chris, do you have anything to add on this one?
No, this is similar to what we did last year, program for the first time. In case you're curious, areas that we include this year's program are going to be in West Park, Bradington Court, Southwoods, Country Crossings, the Boroughs, Heritage Heights, and Pioneer Ridge. We have work to be done within this program.
So you won't be very busy.
No, well,
He says that so
no,
innocent.
and keep in mind that we won't be able to get everything done before the end of the year, so it'll be some work here in the
Sure.
fall, winter, and then some will be in the spring before the budget stuff. But
Sounds great. Any questions, comments? If none, entertain a motion to award the bid or the motion by Alderman Eversaw, second by Alderman Agni.
If we can, sir, can we just state that it will be awarded to Henke Excavating, the amount of $101,273?
We can say that,
Excellent.
and I believe it is said now. Roll call.
No, we can't. Eversol.
Yes.
Agni.
Yes.
Nemitz.
Yes.
Rustler.
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Ocamp.
Yes.
And Riddle. Thank you.
All right, discussion of Columbia Municipal Code related to video gaming. I'm guessing Scott's going to talk about this one. Mr. Dunnigan.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. For your evening's enjoyment, I provided an outline of the municipal code provisions that are regarding video gaming. And I thought I'd just give you a quick overview of what it all deals with and what Doug and I, for example, are looking at when somebody comes in with an application and it goes to the mayor from there, at least for primarily liquor, because there really isn't much regulation outside of the liquor code. So if you happen to be looking at the handout I prepared, in Title IX, there is a section 91280 that deals with gambling. And in summary, all this does is basically make gambling and gambling devices illegal in Columbia unless they are operated, unless it's inconsistent with the Illinois Video Gaming Act. And then it establishes an annual $25 fee per video game machine, per video gaming machine, for an annual sticker that gets put on there for essentially a local permit, local fee. So that is all in relation to the gambling side of things. The rest of it is in the liquor code. The first section to take a look at is the video gaming revenue. And basically what this does is state what is the revenue based on the reporting that is done by the state gaming board. Okay. And this is identified as net terminal income in the reports. So all this does is giving us the definition that we need in order to regulate it, the rest in the code. Okay, so this is how we've gone about regulating them so far. This next section is 520.070. I believe Mr. Schlemmer mentioned this earlier somewhat in that item V does basically cap revenue from video gaming at 50%, and that amount is based off that net terminal income. Okay, so it also, though, it's a passive enforcement. It's not a directed enforcement. It's not that we're actively enforcing it. It is may. The mayor may ask somebody to produce their accounts. And, that is up to the mayor's discretion. It does not have any requirement as far as when he's would be liable to do that or responsible for doing so. It just says he may. And if found ineligible, because of the 50% cap, or because you fail to produce the records to the mayor upon request, your liquor license will automatically be revoked. Now, in my section that I wrote up here, the question that I ask is this still the way the council wants to go? Because we haven't been requesting for anyone to provide this information. And to my knowledge, nobody has ever been asked to produce such information to verify it. And I would strongly, nobody's asked for accounting records from any of the businesses, and looking at the amounts that have been generated, I would just wager an educated guess saying that I would bet that some of them are making over 50% of their income on video gaming, because I find it very difficult to believe that some of our establishments are pulling down well over $1 million a year on other items. Just knowing what a lot of revenue is.
Yeah, Scott, just to clarify something here that I wanted to go ahead and make sure it's on. I get it closer. Was that this 50% rule? I just want to make sure as we go along, because when this first came out, we had one license, and then we were concerned about proliferation of the parlors and that. So Jimmy went ahead, the city administrator then, went ahead and put together an ordinance with multi-classifications for liquor licenses to potentially isolate parlors type of liquor license from others, so we could go ahead and obtain that kind of restriction. Now, the ordinance that went into effect was basically, I thought in here, had a grandfather that said that if you went ahead and were an existing liquor license prior to the enactment of this new ordinance, then the parlor section did not apply. And that would be one thing that would apply to, for example, Alex's Ace's place, in that he got a liquor license before this applied. So the 50% would not apply to anybody who had a liquor license, or how is this?
I'm afraid that's untrue anymore.
It's
That's
untrue.
the way it was passed by ordinance 3366. However, that reference to section O was changed with the follow-up ordinances, and section O no longer reads that section. Would you like me to read section O to you? So in other words, what it had read originally when adopted Any person, association, or corporation operating or seeking to operate an establishment that derives more than 50% of its gross monthly revenues from video gaming revenue. So this is prohibited license or application. Hang on a second. Let me make sure which sections that's in. These are applications for license. So, nope, that one was in prohibited license. Sorry, there's like 4 pages here, so I'm just finding it. So these are prohibited licenses. Any person, association, et cetera, makes 50%. The problem is, so that any license holder revenue requirements contained in subsection O of 52070. Okay, see that? I will point out here that under prohibited license in ordinance 3402 adopted in April 16th, O was changed to any law enforcing public official, including the mayor, any alderman. No such official shall have direct interest in the manufacture, sale. It has nothing to do with video gaming whatsoever. So that went away.
So the grandfather clause went away. So every
Based on what I'm
person that has a
saying,
liquor license is subject to this 50% if they have video gaming.
exactly. And I question, what is our, at this point, where we're sitting now, being that our sole source, our sole dedicated revenue stream for Parks and Recreation come from this revenue, and we haven't had any complaints, we haven't had any violations that we've had to follow up on. What is our vested interest in maintaining that cap if we're not going to enforce it and we're getting our revenue for Parks and Recreation directly from this revenue stream? So that's a question for you, and I wanted to throw that out there for discussion, because if we're not going to enforce it and we don't think it's a good
Well, that whole little
Thing any
subsection, I was
longer.
like, that contradicts anything that I had remembered. My memory was of the first part. This change of section O to be applicable to everybody's liquor license, was that due to the ordinance Jimmy came up with?
I couldn't tell you what
It was here
due
before
to.
you came.
That was different. Yeah. All I can do is read straight from the paper that it was printed on with the mayor and clerk's signature on it.
Thank you.
Reading straight from it.
Yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and clarify who that applied to.
Yeah.
From my memory and to what you were going on to, not to completely short circuit your
Yeah.
explanation there. So
Who it applies to is everybody who holds a liquor license. Anybody who holds a liquor license technically is prohibited from getting more than 50% of their income from video gaming. Anyone,
everybody.
everybody. So once again, food for thought. Is that what council would like to see right now, given that is our dedicated revenue stream for Parks and Recreation? What are we accomplishing with that right now? The next thing to come into this class of licenses, that did not come into where the A was split into A1 and A2. That did not come into existence until ordinance 3366. That stayed split apart when we went forward. But the interesting thing, it doesn't tie anything to video gaming though. It's almost as if that was the intent, but there's nothing that requires you to have one of those licenses if you're going to have a video gaming establishment. Nothing in the code. It sets up these two classes, but the 50% caps don't have anything to do with video gaming on these. It says it basically what it does, it limits you to 50% or more of your gross revenue derived from the sale of alcoholic liquor, and that's A1 licenses. And there's where a cap of 2 A1 licenses in the city. And then the A2 licenses is you must have 50% or more of your gross revenue derived from food or non-alcoholic beverages. So in other words, these are for people, the A2 is for people who sell less than 50% being alcoholic beverages. Okay.
So does that basically disqualify A1 licenses?
Pardon?
does that basically disqualify if you have an
No.
A1 license and you have to have over 50% of your revenue?
This has nothing to do with gaming.
Huh?
That has nothing to do with gaming whatsoever.
You'd have, or I guess you go the other way. Because you said that 50% of your income has to come from non-game, over 50% has to come from non-gaming. Or you'd have to.
Those are not related provisions.
No.
That was the previous provision on the prohibited licenses. That's correct.
That one's alcohol or no alcohol.
These two classes of license are about how much alcohol you sell.
Yeah,
The
versus
liquor
everything else.
licenses, the liquor licenses deal with taking gaming out of the mix. Do 50% of your revenues come from alcohol or everything but alcohol? So food.
Yeah.
Yes. So the
So it has
class.
none of- So liquor doesn't come into to that part of the equation. It's
Right,
just,
not for the license, but I was thinking that if the definition that you're applying for the license under would go ahead and be that, oh, you're saying that over 50% of your income comes from the sale of alcohol or non-alcohol related things, and that, aren't you kind of admitting what your business is involved in? So I was thinking that if you're supposed to have the gaming license under the 50% rule, if you're going to ask for a liquor license that says over 50% of your income is coming from non-gaming sources, and that, I'm just wondering if that would actually, by you applying for a certain license, put you in the category of.
I think you're mixing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, here's the question I have. I don't understand the need to split apart the A1 and A2. Prior to ordinance 3366, there was just an A license, which is just for sales on premises.
Anybody else have any comments or? I mean, the way I remember this, when it all came down, this was a very new thing. And we were kind of concerned on what were video parlors going to be? What were they going to look like? How were they going to be handled? How would they affect the quality of life in Columbia? And so there was a lot of unknowns. Well, I think we've seen that they can be operated professionally, and they can be operated very well. And frankly, they're operated just like any other business that sells alcohol in Columbia. So I think if we're concerned about, somebody that has a liquor license and all of a sudden they want to go ahead and do gaming along with it, then if we're concerned about that enforcement of the 50%, we can look into that. But I think the real crux of the whole ordinance was to have some teeth in case we had issues. And we haven't had any issues. It's actually been kind of self-regulating. I think that the amount of play that's going to happen is going to be determined by what the people want to see and what the people want to do. And so my feeling is we continue to operate like we have been and like we'll continue to operate moving forward. Alderman Ressler.
My question is that we haven't had a proliferation of parlors for the last couple of years, but is it because we had a misinformation that you had a restriction on parlors when in fact the ordinance had been changed so that you could get a parlor license and we had just not adequately conveyed that to the public? So there's been a suppression of parlors only because we had a misinformation as to if Mr. Schlemmer had the impression that we put a lid on this, and that was our intention at the beginning, but through changes to the verbiage in the ordinances, we actually removed the lid, and it really wasn't publicized, I guess, in a way that if you wanted to open up a parlor, you could have. Is that what actually happened?
I have no idea.
I would
Does
ask
that
the
sound
question,
accurate?
I guess I would ask, what's the difference between a bar with video gaming and video games with a bar? It's the same thing. I don't understand why we're trying to differentiate.
No, we may not want to, but my whole question
I mean-
was if that's the confusion that caused Mr. Schlemmer to have the question, then you got your answer. If that's the way it is, that our current law, you can open up parlors. It was, and the impression was, and based on my memory too, that it was a lid. Apparently it got changed after the fact, and small detail in that. And so the lid came off in that. And yeah, other people may have been able to, or open up another parlor. And we have not had a proliferation, maybe just because they didn't know that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if we could, I think what Scott and the rest of the staff's looking for here is tell us what you want and we'll tweak, if necessary, the language. Based upon the results that you've seen since all this was put together, you tell us how you feel now, based on what your evidence is and you've seen, you tell us what you want as a whole, and then we'll tweak what we need to accommodate what you want to do.
Well, and you heard what I said. I think it's working. I don't think we've had any issues. It's been great for Parks and Rec. It's, we really haven't seen a problem with it. So that's kind of my opinion, but Alderman Martins?
I was gonna say, Mr. Dunke made the comment, and I agree with him. I don't think they, the 50%, there's no one getting 50, I think, food to what the gaming is, when you look at those results, like he said. I mean, I agree with you there, that it's not, if we enforce it on everyone, we'd be knocking out half the parlors.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
all right. Any other,
One last comment.
oh,
If it's correct as you just described, then the enforcement of this provision, as you're asking for, thinking you were grandfathered, may swing back around and decapitate you because you don't meet the qualifications.
Yeah.
Totally understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Ressler, and
It's true.
we were under the understanding, like we said, we were grandfathered in, and so was Paradise
Mhm.
Gaming. And after Paradise Gaming was allowed, that's when this amendment, this ordinance came into effect. We were supposed to be in the clear. Now, things have changed again. So I don't, I don't want to cut our heads off. No, sir. I do not want to do that.
Yeah.
So, but there was a misunderstanding, I guess, or misinterpretation by me or by someone.
No, I was under the impression initially too, so.
So, but like Mark had said before, council, we were supposed to be grandfathered in with no bad happenings to us from later on. Now you're saying, if we go by this ordinance, you're gonna come back and cut our heads off.
Everybody's almost.
Everybody.
That's what I mean. It's been found that the language in there is actually, as it was changed.
It does say, the tavern.
okay, so getting back to what the city attorney said, does anybody see any reason at this point to change the verbiage and to do different than what Mr. Donaghy has explained as far as how our code addresses this situation? Alderman,
Mayor, I think it's working. As you said, it's a revenue stream. It's been restricted in past months, of course, but it's working for Parks and Rec. We've never had a revenue stream for that established before. The one thing I wanted to ask clarification on is, though I know it was the intention initially that we do not have 24-hour a day video gaming, and is there anything that regulates that, and is that still?
I believe they have to be able to sell liquor to have video gaming. So if they cannot sell liquor, they cannot have video gaming going on during that same time period.
So it
So
polices
when,
itself,
yeah, so
for
when
sure.
liquor stops, video gaming stops.
Okay, because I know that was our original discussion too. The second one I didn't remember so clearly, but the first one I definitely did, and I know the intention was not to have 24 hours. So
Absolutely.
if the liquor license polices that, then I'm fine.
We'll make sure, if that's what the group wants as a whole, we'll go through this, make sure there's any tweaking needs to be done to accomplish your intent.
Okay.
And if I might suggest one thing, if we want to regulate video gaming, my suggestion would be, let's do it in the section where we're regulating video gaming instead of having to do this circular reference thing, going be back and forth between the liquor code. It's simple enough to say what rules we want for video gaming, that we could just put it down without it having to be intertwined and left to, I guess, assumption or deductive logic. It should be straightforward and able to be read in
Simple.
plain English.
We'll clean it up.
Alderman Hook?
Scott, do we need to clean that whole ordinance up to where we protect the existing businesses so that we wouldn't get, if we were to get a change of administration that was seeing it differently, that we couldn't, that the code couldn't be used against them and
My suggestion would look to be let Doug and I take a look at it. We hear what we think you're saying, and we could bring, draft something up. I don't think it would take, we could probably knock out a draft in under a day and have something ready for you for the next meeting. I mean, it wouldn't take long.
All right.
We've already discussed it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
It's just too convoluted.
All righty.
I think it'd be simple to do.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments on that subject? All righty. Discussion of elected official salaries.
As many of the council members are aware, you cannot change the compensation of elected officials currently holding office. However, you can make any amendments for future terms. Looking at the history of what's been done for the elected officials, fiscal year ending 2017, there was a 0% across the board. 18 was 0% across the board. Fiscal year ending 2019, 3%, 23%, 21, 2.5%, 22, 2.5%. Basically, we're trying to determine for the election that's coming up in the next spring on what trends we want to continue. Following the history of what has been done in the past, we're proposing that it would be 2.5 and 22, and then zeros for 23 and 20. I'm sorry, 2.5 for fiscal year 21, 22, and then zeros in 23 and 24. But certainly this was just kind of a shot in the dark based off of, again, the previous trends. I didn't know if the elected officials in place now are okay with that, or if they would like to see any kind of amendments or changes to that that we could pass at the November 2nd meeting in compliance with state law 180 days prior to the actual election.
Yeah, I know, Doug, what we've always tried to do in the past is, since there's half the aldermen that'll have 2 years, with the 2 years of the re-elected alderman, we always try to make sure that that stays the same. And then if there's an adjustment, it would be at that next period. So I think what we need to kind of do is look at not the next 2 years, but the 2 years after that, set that amount of where you think it should be to then follow course.
Right, and that's where we came in with the 2.5s for the first 2 years, and then following the 17, 18, which would translate to 23, 24, the zeros.
Okay. Is everybody good with that? Sounds good.
All right.
Oh,
Discussion of Election Day holiday.
As many of you have probably observed and followed in the IML bulletins that come out pretty regularly, the Public Act 101-0642, which was passed back in May by the General Assembly, stated that all government offices as well as schools shall be closed for election year 2020. Due to the ambiguity in this public act, the Illinois Municipal League actually sought clarification from the Illinois State Board of Elections on if this would apply to municipalities or not. Unfortunately, the State Board of Elections did not respond or did not answer the question from IML. So IML was forced to file suit in Sangamon County for clarification to resolve this ambiguity. There was a hearing that was held last week whereby essentially the judge ruled that it would be up to the individual municipalities as to whether they would close November 3rd for general election day or not. Again, as this is a policy decision, we're looking for some guidance from the city council on what direction they would like to take with this.
And I'll go ahead and speak that typically we have a polling place here at City Hall. So I don't see, I still don't understand why we were even doing this in the first place, because I don't see how closing down the government helps, hurts, or changes whether somebody's going to vote or not. So my feeling is it's just another day, and we address it as just another day and move on. Do we need a motion, or you'll, okay, perfect. That's the way we'll handle it.
That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
We have anything for closed session?
No, sir.
Announcements? Anything else for the good of the council? Motion to adjourn. Wrestler, Agni, roll call.
Eversol, Agni, Demus.
Yes.
Wrestler,